Our boy Kazuya enters Genetics Academy to follow in his late sister's footsteps. But as he steps onto campus, a lone figure catches his eye, looking exactly like the sister he lost. As cherry blossoms drift through the air, Kazuya spots the blonde girl again. Overwhelmed by emotion and disbelief, he starts to wonder if his sister could actually still be alive. Lost in his memories, our guy rushes forward and pulls the girl into a tight embrace, crying out for his sister. He has no idea he just hugged the Academy's most untouchable queen. This sudden hug causes a catastrophic opening. Completely stunned, Satellizer loses her focus during combat, allowing her opponent to ensnare the legendary queen in a trap she can't escape. News of the untouchable queen's first loss spreads like wildfire. The entire student body is buzzing with gossip about the idiot who dared to interfere in her match and cause this disaster. Summoned to the principal's office, Kazuya learns about his heavy responsibilities as a special candidate. At the same time, he begins to realize the sheer scale of the mess he's created. Outside, Kazuya meets the student council president, Chiffon. Known as the Smiling Monster, her gentle expression hides a terrifying power as she teases our boy about his recent stunt. Chiffon explains the terrifying legend of Satellizer and her untouchable reputation. Seeing Kazuya's confused face, she seems quite amused by the chaotic school life he's about to endure. While our boy is hearing terrifying legends about the queen and her violent past, a sudden tremor shakes the building, signaling that a major conflict has already begun. Back at the field, Satellizer stands ready with her blade despite her visible fatigue. The moment students spot the untouchable queen, they scatter in panic to avoid the fallout. Janessa gloats over her recent victory, claiming the queen title for herself now that she's defeated Satellizer. Faced with such mockery, the injured Satellizer can only grit her teeth. With words exhausted, the fight resumes as Janessa dives from the air with her lethal chains. Satellizer steadies her stance and grips her sword, preparing for the violent assault. Sparks fly as the chains and blade collide. In a flash, Satellizer focuses her gaze and snaps through Janessa's weapons, leaving the crowd completely stunned by her counterattack. Watching the intense battle, our boy is left in awe of Satellizer's true power. However, as the tide turns, a humiliated Janessa begins to wear a truly terrifying expression. Consumed by rage, Janessa decides to break the rules by activating the Forbidden Pandora mode. As her aura explodes with violence, everyone realizes the situation is about to spiral out of control. Seeing the battle stall, Ganesha illegally activates her Pandora mode. Her crazed expression and the terrifying pressure she radiates leave even the formidable Satellizer breaking into a cold sweat. Faced with such overwhelming power, Satellizer is forced into a defensive struggle. Our boy watches from the sidelines in an agony of worry, desperate to intervene as the situation worsens. Ganesha's assault is relentless, each blow aimed at a vital spot. Our boy monitors her every move, sensing that she's about to unleash a devastating finishing strike. "Look out behind you!" Our boy screams, but it's too late. Cold chains instantly wrap around Satellizer's neck, violently hoisting her high into the air. Ganesha bellows a twisted roar, lashing out with her chains. A helpless Satellizer is repeatedly struck in midair, her armor torn to shreds as blood splatters across the battlefield. Staring at the suspended and nearly unconscious Satellizer, our boy is utterly horrified. This is no longer a duel. It has turned into a cruel, one-sided slaughter. Ganesha stands amidst the wreckage, mockingly savoring her vengeance. However, in the face of such senseless brutality, our boy's shock begins to sharpen into pure rage. Unable to stand by any longer, our boy rushes forward to intervene. But Ganesha, blinded by bloodlust, delivers a savage back kick that sends him flying, coughing up blood. As Ganesha launches her savage assault, Satellizer suddenly erupts with power, pushing back with an intensity that leaves the onlookers completely frozen in shock. With a sudden surge of strength, the tide of battle flips in an instant. Watching this unbelievable scene unfold, our boy stands there completely stunned, struggling to process what just happened. As the smoke clears, Satellizer stands alone with her massive weapon anchored in the ground. The fight may be over for now, but her damaged armor tells the story of how intense the clash really was. Just in time, faculty members step in to put an end to the chaos. A weary Kazuya heads back to his dorm, only to be greeted by his new roommate, Arthur, who's a bit more energetic than he expected. Over tea and a meal, Arthur proves to be quite the chatterbox and a well-informed one at that. He starts filling our boy in on the Academy's power structure and the reputation of the girl he just saw in action. Late that night, our boy lies awake, tossing and turning. He can't stop feeling guilty for mistaking Satellizer for his sister, and decides he needs to offer her a proper apology tomorrow. Elsewhere in the academy, a more sinister vibe is taking hold. Miyabi, a third-year student, gathers with her clique to discuss the latest rumors circulating through the halls. Miyabi sets her sights on the photo of our boy, a predatory look gleaming in her eyes. Known as the Limiter Devourer, she's clearly decided who her next target is going to be. Class just ended, and our boy is chatting with his friends. Everyone is warning him to stay far away from the school's most dangerous girl. But all Kazuya can think about is finding Satellizer to apologize. As the group heads to the cafeteria, the delicious food quickly grabs their attention. With tempting meals all around, the gang lines up and happily chats away, completely unaware of what's happening nearby. Right amidst the lively chatter, our boy suddenly spots a familiar figure in the crowd, leaving him completely speechless. The feared Untouchable Queen is actually quietly lining up for food alone. Desperate to clear the misunderstanding, Kazuya rushes over and impulsively grabs her clothes. His reckless move completely shocks everyone around. Before he can even speak, a flustered Satellizer yanks herself free and bolts away. To escape the staring crowd, she flees all the way to the empty rooftop. Finding a quiet corner, she finally catches her breath. She just wants to eat her burger in peace, but before she can take a bite, our boy tracks her down. Now, this unexpected alone time is about to make things incredibly awkward. The scene shifts as the usually cold queen offers a rare apology. Satellizer admits she lost her match just to save our boy, leaving him completely stunned by her sudden honesty. Despite claiming she's just returning a favor, the Untouchable Queen doesn't pull away when our boy touches her. Instead, she stands there completely flushed as the air turns thick with tension. Satellizer softly admits that our boy is the only exception to her trauma. This breakthrough in trust pulls them closer, leaving both of them flustered by the sudden romantic spark. The romantic moment is shattered when an uninvited guest interrupts. A purple-haired senior appears with a provocative tone, looking at the pair with eyes full of mischief and clear ill intent. Chaos ensues as the senior tries to claim our boy for herself. Satellizer fires back, officially declaring him her limiter, leaving our poor guy sweating bullets between these two powerful women. When our boy firmly rejects the senior's advances, her smile vanishes instantly. With the chilling sound of chains, the quiet corner of the academy transforms into a lethal battlefield. The attack is merciless, leaving Satellizer severely injured under a barrage of chains and daggers. Facing such overwhelming power, our boy and the queen find themselves in a desperate fight for survival. The battle is heating up. The new girl, Lana, isn't just powerful, she's bold enough to provoke her opponents as she launches a fierce assault. Before anyone can blink, Lana turns into a blur. She rains down blades with such speed that it leaves the opposition struggling just to keep up. Watching the figures clash, our boy is completely stunned. At this level, they're moving so fast his eyes can barely track their movements. With a massive boom, the two collide head-on. Lana showcases incredible skill in the heat of battle, leaving everyone watching in a cold sweat. But Satellizer isn't going down easily. Spotting an opening, she grabs Lana's arm and slams her away, instantly seizing control of the fight. Lana screams in agony as the heavy hit connects. The sudden violence chills the air, and even our boy can't hide his shock and concern. But then, Lana starts laughing through the pain. Her twisted excitement is bone-chilling, proving she's a far more dangerous combatant than expected. Suddenly, Lana's eyes undergo a bizarre change as a powerful hidden energy awakens. It looks like the real storm is only just beginning. Watching Satellizer struggle, our boy shouts her name in desperation, but the chaos unfolding is already beyond anyone's control. Even the powerful queen looks terrified under the brutal assault. With the sound of tearing fabric, her defenses are slowly being shredded. The enemy deploys a dirty tactic, and cold chains instantly bind Satellizer, stripping her of any chance to fight back against the mob. Even while captured and in immense pain, Satellizer's only concern is our boy's safety, going as far as to beg her captors to let him go. The villain Miyabi isn't stopping. Instead, she doubles down on the humiliation, openly tormenting the queen who can no longer defend herself. The sheer cruelty leaves Satellizer curled up on the ground in agony, while the aggressors mock her with chilling, sadistic laughter. Seeing his proud senior being trampled like this, our boy is paralyzed by horror and rage. But it seems this cruel lynching is only just beginning. The battle has spiraled completely out of control. Seeing Satellizer's brutal suppression of her opponent, our boy is left speechless, chilled by the sheer intensity of the scene. Back on the battlefield, Satellizer's assault grows even more ruthless. With fury in her eyes, she looks ready to tear her opponent apart, leaving our boy desperate for a way to intervene. Ganesha is left utterly broken under Satellizer's relentless fury. Our boy is deeply shaken by the carnage, having never seen the Untouchable Queen act with such cold-blooded cruelty. The one-sided massacre freezes the very air. Satellizer's shows no signs of stopping, even tearing through her opponent's gear. Our boy can hardly believe this is the person he wants to protect. With a final, lethal strike, a cold blade pierces through, and a scream echoes across the academy. This is no longer a duel, it's an execution, leaving everyone breathless with horror. Satellizer lets out a chilling, mocking smile, seemingly lost in the dark thrill of venting her own pain onto others. To our boy, she has never felt more like a stranger. As Ganesha lies in a pool of blood, the crowd can only gasp in terror. Our boy covers his face in anguish, wondering how their relationship could have spiraled into such an irreparable state. Yet, as Ganesha's consciousness fades, her memories drift back to warmer times. She was once just a girl who smiled shyly at her partner, a tragic contrast to her current broken state. The scene shifts back to the hospital. While our boy keeps a smile to reassure everyone, the heavy atmosphere doesn't last long, as news from the operating room suddenly puts everyone on edge. Soon after, Satellizer gently brushes our boy's cheek, leaving him completely stunned. Before he can even process the moment, Lana jumps in with her usual confidence, making the group dynamic even more complicated. Right then, President Chiffon steps in with her trademark smile. She casually rests a hand on our boy's shoulder, and while she seems to be joking, the underlying pressure she exudes makes the whole room go quiet. The scene shifts to the battlefield, where the Pandoras are on high alert. With a massive rumble, an armored giant bursts from the ground, its powerful shockwaves signaling the start of a brutal showdown. The battle erupts instantly. As the freezing field expands, the pink-haired girl lashes out with her chain weapon. But the enemy is tougher than expected, and even with her aggressive assault, they find themselves in a tough spot. At the critical moment, the red-haired Pandora calmly enters the fray. With her sword held steady, she looks remarkably composed amidst the chaos. In a flash, she moves like a blur, locking onto the enemy's weak point. Without hesitation, she leaps into the air and unleashes her Tempest turn. A devastating blow strikes the armored giant's core, and with a sharp cracking sound, its heavy defenses begin to crumble. With the armor completely shattered, the crisis is finally averted for now. Looking at the fallen foe, everyone lets out a sigh of relief. While our boy is still processing the scale of the fight, the will of the Pandoras proved much stronger than any armor. With the mission wrapped up, Arthur is amazed by Ingrid's efficiency taking down a target in just 40 seconds. Meanwhile, Janessa seems lost in her own thoughts. The conversation shifts to the problematic sophomore, Satellizer. To the upperclassmen, the Untouchable Queen is becoming a serious thorn in their side. Inside the confinement cell, President Chiffon looks down at the penalized Satellizer. Even in this state, the Queen's eyes remain sharp and defiant. Chiffon isn't just here to scold. She specifically mentions our boy Kanzuya. She warns Satellizer that no matter what happens, she must not involve him. Chiffon's gaze turns deadly as she delivers a chilling ultimatum. If anything happens to Kanzuya, she will personally end Satellizer's life. As night falls and Satellizer steps out alone, a mysterious figure blocks her path. It looks like Lana has finally tracked down her target. Just as the tension peaks, a glasses-wearing upperclassman with a chilly aura makes her entrance. Claiming to be a guardian of order, she demands respect from the Untouchable Queen with an air of absolute authority. Before Satellizer can even react, the newcomer has a blade pressed against her throat. This senior isn't here for small talk. Her icy stare makes it clear she's here to pass judgment, and the atmosphere turns freezing. The upperclassman, Ingrid Bernstein, gives Satellizer a 24-hour ultimatum for a duel to punish her actions. But before leaving, she points out a fatal flaw. Satellizer is currently without a limiter partner. As Ingrid walks away, her overwhelming presence leaves everyone stunned. As the 7th-ranked third year, her involvement turns the already tense academy situation into a brewing storm. Meanwhile, our boy gets the explosive news from a classmate. Learning that Satellizer is backed into a corner and desperately needs a partner, he starts to panic and realizes he can't just sit by. Satellizer tries to clear her head in the shower, but the warm water can't wash away her inner turmoil. Facing an opponent of Ingrid's caliber, She knows better than anyone how dangerous this duel will be. Unable to just stay away, our boy gathers his courage and heads to Satellizer's dorm. He takes a deep breath and knocks, fully expecting to be given the cold shoulder once again by the queen. But as he cautiously pushes the door open, the sight leaves him speechless. The fierce queen actually has a bed piled with cute plushies and toys. This massive gap between her persona and her room is almost too much to process. Before the chaos erupts, our boy finds himself lost in a gentle memory of his sister teaching him the simple joys of life and family bonds. But reality hits hard when our boy accidentally stumbles into a room he shouldn't be in, catching a glimpse of Satellizer that leaves him completely speechless. A piercing scream shatters the silence. As Satellizer snaps out of her own inner turmoil, our guy can do nothing but offer a desperate, frantic apology. Trying to prove he wasn't sneaking around, our boy kneels outside the door, pushing through the intense awkwardness to finally speak his mind to her. Taking a leap of faith, our guy gathers his courage and makes a heartfelt plea, asking Satellizer to finally let him stand by her side as her limiter. However, the untouchable queen isn't easily swayed. Used to fighting alone, she coldly insists that she doesn't need any man's help to survive the battles ahead. Our boy refuses to back down. Feeling responsible for the trouble she's facing with the upperclassmen, he's determined to share her burden no matter the cost. As night falls, the rest of the academy remains far from peaceful, with Ganesha and others watching the brewing storm from the shadows of the campus. Standing alone by the window, Ingrid gazes at the moon and thinks of her lost partner Marin, still burdened by the heavy weight of her duty and grief. As the guardian of order, Ingrid looks down with a sneer, lecturing Satellizer on the essence of being a Pandora. To her, this place is a military base where hierarchy is everything. Faced with a lecture, Satellizer gloomily offers her own philosophy. She believes fighting without a limiter's interference means striking when the opponent is alone. This cold logic brings the tension to a boiling point. Just as their ideologies clash, a sudden explosion shatters the peace. Ingrid strikes without mercy, physically suppressing those she deems out of line, her brutal method striking fear into everyone present. The battle immediately escalates into a bloody spectacle. Ingrid is clearly not holding back, her undeniable power driving her opponent into a desperate corner as blood splatters across the scene. Is this the power you've been so proud of? Ingrid reveals a terrifying state of her stigmata, her eyes filled with chilling pressure. Under this sheer dominance, her opponent's will begins to crumble. From a high balcony, Student Council President Chiffon watches calmly. She has no intention of letting the staff intervene, choosing instead to personally see where this runaway sense of order leads. Despite the opponent's attempts to counter with speed, all struggles prove futile against Ingrid's heavy strikes. With a sharp cry, the once confident blonde Pandora completely loses her footing. The late-night ruckus wakes everyone up, and our boy Kanzuya senses something wrong coming from the third-year dorms. At the center of the battlefield, Ingrid's final blow shatters her opponent's last line of defense. The battle starts on a brutal note. Before Satellizer can even mount a proper defense, she's sent flying by a devastating blow from her relentless opponent. Watching Satellizer struggle, our boy looks on with deep concern. Her opponent doesn't let up, adding insult to injury with taunts that leave the spectating students in shock. Gritting her teeth, Satellizer stabilizes herself and activates a high-end Excel skill. The sudden burst of speed is so intense it leaves even the upperclassmen staring in disbelief. Our boy realizes that this opponent's reaction time is even faster than Miyabi's. Still, Satellizer thinks she's found a gap and moves in for what she hopes is a perfect strike. Unfortunately, reality hits hard. Her opponent predicts the entire routine and shatters her defense with a counterblow, showing a level of dominance that's honestly terrifying. With a cold smirk, she reveals the hard truth. Speed alone can't win against a master. As a fresh wave of terrifying energy surges, it seems the real crisis is only just beginning. As Chapter 18 begins, the atmosphere turns freezing. Facing Ganesha's blatant provocation, our boy and the onlookers are stunned, sensing a brutal confrontation is about to erupt. Ganesha's assault is ruthless, and our boy can only watch in horror as Satellizer is sent flying by a massive blow. The villain's sadistic grin contrasts sharply with Satellizer's agony. Amidst the one-sided beatdown, Ganesha lets out a manic scream. On the edge of the battlefield, Chiffon watches coldly, silently evaluating how this chaos will unfold. To break her opponent completely, Ganesha pins down the wounded Satellizer and attempts to extract her stigma. Our boy watches helplessly as the golden source of her power is forcibly pulled away. Ganesha mocks her victim, demanding repentance while intensifying the torture. Seeing the blood and pain in Satelliser's eyes, our boy can no longer suppress his rising anger. Just as Satelliser is about to lose consciousness, our boy finally steps forward. While Ganesha continues to drop her arrogant ultimatums, his determined gaze hints at a turning tide. Facing an invincible foe, our boy summons every ounce of courage to declare that he will be Satelliser's limiter. This shocking proclamation leaves the villain stunned and the crowd in disbelief. Even when asked if he's ready to die, our boy doesn't flinch. Looking at the shaken Satelliser, he knows he's defying the rules, but he is fully committed to protecting her until the end. Despite the mounting pressure and judgment from the crowd, our boy doesn't back down for a second. With eyes full of resolve, he declares his intent to become Satelliser's limiter, leaving everyone stunned by his determination. However, the tension is reaching a breaking point as Ganesha looms like a predator. In a desperate move to help the struggling Satelliser, someone hands her a stigma, urging her to complete the ceremony and reclaim her power. Faced with these forced expectations, Satelliser looks visibly distressed and helpless. Watching her struggle, our boy feels a pang of worry, sensing her deep-seated trauma and instinctive rejection of the ceremony. Suddenly, combat erupts. The seniors unleash a powerful freezing field, attempting to completely immobilize Satelliser. The sheer force of the impact even shreds her gear, putting her at a catastrophic disadvantage. Seizing the opening, Ganesha swings her heavy weapon with lethal intent, taunting Satelliser that she can't dodge this in her current state. Seeing her in mortal danger, our boy cries out in a desperate panic. But then, the unthinkable happens. In the heat of the moment, our boy manages to shatter the high-level freezing field through sheer willpower alone without a contract. This impossible feat leaves the seniors utterly speechless. With the freezing field broken, Satelliser's expression shifts into pure fury. Moving like a blur, she launches a devastating counterattack, her blade slashing through Ganesha's defenses in a spray of blood. As the onlookers gasp in shock, a guaranteed defeat is miraculously overturned. Though the immediate crisis is over, the way everyone looks at our boy has changed. They now wonder what terrifying power this freshman truly holds. The battle is turning brutal, with blood already staining Satelliser's chest. Our boy can only watch in shock as Atia, fueled by rage, begins to question the very rules they are forced to live by. Atia swings her heavy weapon with terrifying intensity, leaving our boy paralyzed with fear. The situation has spiraled out of control, putting even the powerful Satelliser in a life-threatening spot. Watching comrades tear each other apart, our boy wonders why they're locked in such a meaningless fight. But for Ingrid, the weight behind this conflict is deeper than anyone else can see. The story shifts back to a rainy night 1 year ago. Ingrid, then a second year, was on a high-stakes mission, huddled in a camp where the maps and the atmosphere were thick with tension. Despite the exhaustion and the storm, Marin calmly strategizes with Ingrid. In their world, failure is synonymous with death, and as Pandoras, they have no room for hesitation. Marin's gentle encouragement became Ingrid's guiding light, teaching her the true meaning of duty. Inspired by her senior strength, Ingrid vowed to protect her comrades at all costs. During that rainy night, Marin's words touched Ingrid deeply. Nearby, President Chiffon maintained her signature smile, as if sensing a destiny-altering encounter was about to unfold. Through the downpour, they spotted a familiar face, a young Satelliser. Seeing the aloof yet battered underclassman marked the beginning of a long, complicated history between them. In the heavy rain, Satelliser bends over in pain from exertion and stress, while Chiffon, standing beside her, glances aside with a composed expression. Two other girls nearby also feel the immense pressure from the harsh weather and field exercise, even starting to comfort each other by sharing a snack. However, at that moment, a senior named Marine suddenly bursts out holding her injured limiter, screaming in terror. They've encountered a real Nova, not a training dummy. The scene immediately cuts back to the tense battlefield, where we see Satelliser and the students in their combat armor staring ahead, with grim expressions. The situation was critical. The massive limb of the Nova slams into the ground, sending debris flying. One cadet is terrified to the point of collapse, while another male limiter cries out in agony from a serious wound. Hearing Senior Marine's grief-stricken self-blame and her mention of the first-year students who just completed their baptism, the expressions of the blonde and brunette seniors also turn grave and sorrowful. With battle imminent, the brunette senior swiftly issues orders. The blonde cadet is to aim for the Nova's core, while the pink-haired cadet is tasked with protecting the limiters and preparing to fall back. In the chaotic panorama of the battlefield, the Nova's next strike arrives. A massive impact directly hits a student who fails to dodge in time, sending her flying instantly. With a tremendous crash, the brunette student is struck down hard, and this is only the beginning of the brutal battle. The battlefield spirals into chaos as heavy mechanical limbs crush the earth. Seeing his senpai in grave danger, our boy screams in desperation, determined to push through. Amidst splashes of blood and heavy rain, the Pandoras struggle to hold their ground. Their terrified expressions tell you everything about the absolute nightmare they're facing. As rumors of a Type S nova spread through the downpour, Ingrid's stoic facade begins to crack, haunted by the shadows of a past she can't escape. Collapsed in the mud, our boy watches helplessly as the world blurs. The tragic memory of a past sacrifice begins to overlap with the cold reality of this rainy night. Now completely consumed by the heat of battle, Ingrid unleashes a massive array. She fights like a woman possessed, tearing through enemy ranks to protect what remains. The battle reaches a bloody peak, staining the rainwater red. Ingrid's strikes are precise and lethal, delivered with the desperate resolve of someone with nothing left to lose. Our boy tries to stop Ingrid from losing herself to rage, only to be pushed aside. Pointing into the distance, she screams with a fury born from a cruel fate. In the depths of despair, Marin's gentle smile appears. Even at her limit, she offers a tender farewell in the rain, leaving behind a bond that transcends life and death. As Marin whispers her final words, her only concern is the safety of others. One has to wonder, how much longer will this painful memory continue to haunt Ingrid? In the pouring rain, a brown-haired Pandora stands resolute, shielding her comrades. Despite her torn clothes and visible injuries, she grips her light blade and declares firmly, as long as there is a civilian to protect, she will not retreat. This vow surprises the pink-haired comrade covering the rear, Gina, who looks on with a stunned expression. The brown-haired Pandora then assigns command to her comrade Ingrid, before announcing her intention to push beyond her own limits and stall the enemy alone. Her resolve once again shocks Gina. However, as they attempt to withdraw in the chaos, Gina looks back in horror to see that the brave comrade, Marin, has already been severely wounded while covering their escape. Seeing Marin still fighting despite her wounds, a surge of rage erupts within Gina. She cannot comprehend, nor can she accept, how a comrade could be so easily discarded. This brutal memory remains an unhealed trauma in Gina's heart. She can never forget the look of mingled pain and numbness on the face of the male limiter, Kai, as Marin fell. In the end, Marin, cradled in Gina's arms, uttered her final farewell to the arriving Ingrid before falling silent forever. This experience profoundly changed Gina. The scene flashes back to the present. Amidst the roar of helicopters, the Type S Nova has been taken down by the arriving senior reinforcements. A short, black-haired girl is speaking softly, almost to herself. Her words reveal the truth. It was precisely that tragic incident years ago that sparked the subsequent rebellion among Pandoras against senior authority. Our boy and a blonde girl listen intently, their expressions turning grave. And now, driven by that same obsession, Gina has fallen into a rampaging frenzy. With a furious roar, she brings her black longsword down in a crushing blow against Ingrid, who stands in her path. The fatal slash tears through the air and lands heavily on Ingrid. Her limiter, Leo, watches in horror, while even our boy is stunned by the ferocity of the attack. Seeing his partner grievously wounded, Leo tries to rush forward recklessly, only to be met by a brutal punch from Gina that sends him sprawling to the ground in agony. At this critical moment, our boy finally snaps out of his shock. With all his might, he shouts towards the center of the out-of-control battlefield, desperate to stop the spiraling chaos. The scene descends into chaos as our boy unleashes an all-range freezing that leaves everyone stunned. This advanced ability, which freezes not just the target but the entire zone, is far beyond anything they've ever seen. Looking at the frozen world around them, Satellizer and Ingrid are completely speechless. Even our boy seems a bit bewildered by his own unprecedented power, which has instantly made him the center of attention. But the battle isn't over yet. Ingrid is the first to break free, shouting for her limiter, Leo, to act. Realizing our boy is the primary threat, she moves to neutralize him, sending the tension skyrocketing again. Facing Ingrid's fierce assaults, Janessa erupts in rage, forcing herself to move even within the freezing field. Ingrid thought neutralizing our boy would secure her victory, but she clearly underestimated her opponent's resolve. With the battle reaching a stalemate, Janessa activates her Pandora mode, powered suit. Clad in heavy combat armor amidst waves of energy, she radiates an intimidating presence that chills everyone to the bone. The sight of this high-intensity combat mode leaves the onlookers breathless. Despite being battered and bruised, Ingrid grips her weapon tight, determined to defend her sense of order against the impending lethal strike. As Janessa's blade thrusts toward her, memories of her late partner Marin flash through Ingrid's mind. She cries out, desperate to prove to Marin that her path is not wrong, even as blood begins to spill. Janessa's fury has peaked. She refuses to lose to those who trample over the regulations. Under her relentless, berserk slashes, Ingrid's defenses crumble, leaving her reeling from the overwhelming impact. With one final, heavy blow, Ingrid falls. This brutal confrontation might be over, but the storm within the academy is just beginning. How will our boy handle the chaos that follows? Let's find out next time. As the fierce pink-haired Pandora lunged, our boy Kazuya always appeared, unleashing his freezing ability with a shout. Its immense power, surprisingly intensified, even caught the Pandora mode opponent off guard. Not just the opponent, but Satellizer and President Chiffon were also stunned by this extraordinary power. Kazuya's stigmata had clearly surpassed the limits of the Academy's Pandora suits, making the situation far graver than anticipated. However, even under our boy's powerful freezing ability, the opponent hadn't completely lost her fighting spirit. With her body broken, she roared in fury and launched another ferocious assault. Confronting this almost obsessive rage, our boy finally spoke, pinpointing that his opponent was tormented by a fixation. He declared it meaningless, striking at a deep wound within her. Unfortunately, Senior Ingrid remained trapped in her own suffering, her heart already on the verge of collapse. The pink-haired Pandora before them continued to rampage, and the battle was about to erupt. At that moment, our boy unleashed his power again, his voice filled with unprecedented fury. He confronted Senior Ingrid directly, claiming her fixation was demeaning Marin's sacrifice. To him, Marin's death was a noble duty, but Ingrid had twisted her motives, questioning if she truly wanted to die as meaninglessly as Marin. Stunned by our boy's deafening questions, Senior Ingrid's emotional defenses finally shattered. Tears streaming down her face, she repeated Marin's name, realizing with deep remorse that she had been misunderstanding, even belittling, her late partner's true sacrifice. For some unknown reason, the second-year Pandora Virginia begins to suffer, as the skin on her face starts to crack apart in agony. Awakening from the nightmare, Virginia finds her seniors, Ingrid and others, by her bedside, who inform her that the recent stigmatic overdrive nearly cost her life. With a serious expression, Ingrid then asks Virginia about the events of a year ago, questioning if she fought alongside the late senior Marin. Confronted by this pointed question, Virginia grows visibly agitated, admitting that in her subsequent pain and turmoil, she had forced herself to forget those traumatic memories. Under Ingrid's intense gaze and questioning, Virginia finally recalls Senior Marin's final order, for the unprepared Kohais to retreat immediately. Virginia recalls that even when cornered, Marin chose to hold the line alone. Ingrid listens, her expression heavy, and decides to leave the room under the watchful eyes of Leo and the others. Left alone in the room, Virginia is consumed by self-doubt, questioning if their decision to retreat back then might have been a mistake after all. Meanwhile, Student Council President Chiffon listens to the report about the battle between Ingrid and our boy Kazuya, astutely noting that the power he's hiding is far from ordinary. Finally, they turn their attention to the movements of Kazuya and Satellizer, signaling that the upcoming storm within the academy will revolve around them. After the multi-character battle from the previous chapter, the scene shifts to a distant mountain range where several dark-haired individuals in traditional robes gather around the kneeling Rana, blessing her impending journey according to the goddess Kunlun. The scene returns to the present, in a classroom where a conversation about the Untouchable Queen is being led by an orange-haired upperclassman, drawing varied and interested reactions from the surrounding students. The conversation soon turns to our boy. A red-haired girl playfully pats his shoulder, half joking, half warning him that getting involved with that queen, Satellizer, is a bad idea. He can only listen in silence, looking a bit bewildered. Suddenly, the atmosphere in the classroom freezes. The subject of all the gossip, Satellizer herself, appears at the door. To everyone's surprise, she walks directly up to our boy and states in a firm tone, "Kazuya Aoi, come with me for a moment." Seeing Satellizer lead our guy away, the previously talkative upperclassman is left dumbfounded, staring in their direction, utterly confused by the situation. Satellizer takes our boy to the rooftop. Seeming to have resolved herself, she takes a deep breath and then gently, almost cautiously, clasps his hand. Faced with this sudden intimate contact, our boy is frozen in place, barely breathing. Satellizer, however, focuses on the warmth of his hand and softly voices her realization. Just as I thought. I'm fine. She murmurs with downcast eyes, her voice tinged with disbelief. When you touch me, it's not repulsive. Hearing Satellizer's honest confession, our boy responds earnestly, saying he too has always seen her as someone special. This causes an unusual blush to spread across her cheeks. Satellizer struggles to find the words for this unfamiliar feeling. Then she recalls his unique ability, the power of freezing, even without a formal contract. In response to Satellizer's question, our boy smiles a bit shyly. Meanwhile, far above them, the mysterious girl from Tibet, Rana, seems to have arrived at West Genetics and surveys the city from on high. In the hallway, the bespectacled blonde senior excitedly holds up a few books with the Genitas logo, waving them as she urgently speaks to our boy, who looks utterly surprised by whatever news he's just received. After the brief exchange with the senior, our boy is clearly still reeling from the shock, and the expressions of his classmates in the hallway mirror his disbelief, as if everyone has just heard the same unbelievable piece of news. The classroom is buzzing with excitement as a crowd of students surround someone, but amidst all this cheerful noise, our boy stands off to the side alone, looking downcast with fine beads of sweat on his face. Just then, the blonde senior appears at the doorway, her face slightly flushed as she speaks somewhat hesitantly. It seems she's there to invite our boy to dinner. This sudden proposition leaves him frozen in place, completely taken aback. Faced with the senior's invitation, our guy first frantically questions if he heard right. Then, a wave of panic hits him as he vividly recalls the terrifying aura of the Untouchable Queen, Satellizer Senpai, who forbids anyone to get close, setting off all kinds of alarms in his head. However, the senior in front of him actually pulls out a burger meal and shyly offers it to him, saying she bought it specifically. Seeing her unusually gentle demeanor, the shock and anxiety in our boy's heart are momentarily overshadowed by this sudden yet sincere gesture. Our boy casually mentions what happened to his friends in the cafeteria, and the news practically causes a mini earthquake. Hearing that the Untouchable Queen not only approached him on her own, but also called him by name and treated him to a meal, his friends all react with looks of utter disbelief, as if screaming, "You have to be lying!" After a lively group discussion, everyone decides to go out and celebrate anyway, with an orange-haired friend enthusiastically calling for karaoke tonight. However, when the conversation circles back to Satellizer Senpai, another friend gives our guy a serious warning, telling him he can't just casually go to her room. To this, our guy calmly replies that he was invited. This bombshell only makes his friends nearby develop even more complex expressions that essentially say, "Just what the heck is with you?" The scene is filled with a heavy silence of utter bewilderment. And so, with a mix of nervousness and anticipation, our boy rides the train alone to the island where Satellizer Senpai lives. Watching the scenery fly past the window, he quietly reflects that this truly is the first time the usually aloof senior has ever made such an invitation. Meanwhile, back in the senior's own room, she herself seems to be preparing for something she deems impossible. Staring at a pile of clothes with indecision, she mutters to herself, earnestly trying to pick out the perfect outfit for the upcoming meeting. Our boy arrives in Shintosher. Since it's right next to the academy, the city is bustling with energy, filled with international travelers and vibrant shops. Taking a rare break, he finds himself mesmerized by the cute plushies in a shop window, totally unaware that trouble is lurking just around the corner. Suddenly, a group of thugs surrounds him. Their leader, a blonde guy with a bandana, grabs him by the shoulder with a fake and mocking friendliness. Feeling the obvious threat, our boy is deeply unsettled. He tries to politely decline and leave, but the thugs aren't about to let him go so easily. The thugs drop the act and lash out, landing a heavy punch right on our boy's face. Knocked to the ground, he realizes he's in a dangerous spot. Just as things look grim, a purple-haired girl steps into the light. Invoking the name of the goddess Kunlun, she refuses to let this bullying continue. This girl, Lana Lynchen, doesn't hesitate for a second. Before the thugs can even react to her presence, she launches a lightning-fast counterattack. Lana's strikes are incredibly powerful and precise. These thugs find themselves completely overwhelmed, unable to defend against her martial arts skills. With one final, crushing move, the leader of the thugs is neutralized. This mysterious girl's arrival has completely turned the tables for our boy. Out of nowhere, a mysterious girl in strange traditional gear and a visor bursts onto the scene. While our boy is left wondering who this newcomer is, the girl herself seems to spot something that leaves her completely shell-shocked.